misrepresent the argument or the position, I think are misplaced. However, in this part of the discussion where I will be responding, this is where we're going to have some fun. Okay? Now, firstly, I'd like to note that working with others towards a common goal is never a problem. However, when there is more consequences in doing so, this is when it becomes a problem. As the Quran states in Surah Al-Baqarah 219, alcohol has some benefit, but it's mostly harmful. In the same way, we can look at ideas. Feminism may have some benefits, but it can also be extremely harmful. And why is this the case? The reason I would not personally work with the Western feminists is because their understanding of equality and equity is drastically opposed to mine. So if they get their way, especially in terms of the power difference between the Muslim world and the West, my understanding of equality and equity will not be the one for those women. It'll be theirs. So if I assist a Western organization in trying to bring my sisters their rights, it will not be the rights that I want for them. It'll be theirs. That is the problem. Some of the examples that were brought up, such as whether we should work with anti-Zionist Jews. I have no problem with working with anti-Zionist Jews. Except if that Jew were to say that he is going against Israel for the sake of some sort of matter which I cannot agree upon, then I would be opposed to that. I don't think I could work with somebody that way. If I wanted to work in the civil rights movement, contemporary period, say to help African Americans in the United States to get more privileges and rights in law, I would not work with the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam is a racist African American organization that claims to be following Islam. They think the white man is the devil. I'm serious. They think the white man is Shaitan. I would not work with them just because we have a shared goal of giving African Americans their privileges, because they stand against everything that I agree with. And if they were to put their rights into power, the white individuals that they're opposed to would be less. I cannot work towards those conclusions. So yes, I agree that in many cases we can work together with certain organizations, but I would say that Western feminists, for all the blood that is on their hands currently in the Muslim world, I say no. I say let them do what they do. To their religion is theirs, to mine is mine. As for the 4 fundamental things that Western feminism wishes to bring about, this is where we're going to get more specific. Education. And we talk about how bad the Taliban are. Yes, the Taliban are bad in many ways, and we can make a great critique of their methods. But do you understand how Afghanistan is? Do you understand why the Taliban exists? Do you understand why women are not granted a certain type of education? Because even the men themselves don't have it. Do you also understand in terms of careers? Yes, Saudi Arabia has the greatest or the largest women's only university. But you say, how do we know whether these women are working or not? But that is not the goal of education. That is the goal of education in a capitalist society that doesn't care about education. That's a goal of an education system that only wishes to give you a degree. But to make intelligent women is never a waste, regardless of whether they work or not. Health, women's female genital mutilation, okay, otherwise known as female circumcision. There are 4 types of female circumcision in the Muslim world. Only one of them is considered harmful, if you didn't know this already. The most extreme forms, which I'm not going to get into graphic detail as to what that is, you can look that up yourselves, ladies. However, there are very few that are practiced to the extent that a woman is harmed. For instance, Malaysia practices genital mutilation for women. Women in Malaysia, the Malaysian sisters know this, okay? It is a common traditional practice, especially in Kelantan, to circumcise females. I don't see them having a problem with children or anything else for that matter. Now, men are also genitally mutilated. It's called circumcision for men. We do not have much of a problem. I don't think so. What I'm trying to say is that if you want to focus on genital mutilation as a problem in health, we have to focus on those that are actually harmful to health, not those that are commonly practiced in the Muslim world that have no damage whatsoever. And if we want to argue that genital mutilation in general is a problem, then we should say that all men should not be circumcised, which I think would be a very big problem in our religion. Leadership. We both agree on this, that a woman cannot be a khalifa. Okay. Women are leaders in many respects in the Muslim world. However, in terms of what type of leadership are we talking about? I mean, this is sort of a vague point, and I don't really have much time to elucidate it further, but if you're trying to say that feminism is trying to bring equal rights to women to be leaders, to be privileged as leaders, but in what sense? That's something we have to ask. At what point is it okay for a woman to be a leader over a man, and what point should it be okay for a man to be over a woman in that respect? I would say that for a woman, it's not a good idea to make her a general of an army. Now, many people will say, well, Aisha was a general. Not really. And this is a point that I think we need to clarify before we go further. Yes, she led an army in the sense that she was in a box being carried through battle, not actually participating in combat. I would not put her in the same position as Ali in that battle, where she's holding a sword and jumping in and trying to kill people. Now, were there women in the military at certain points that did defend, for instance, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? Yes, there were. But that is an exception. That is not something we should make equal to men. When it is men who 99% of the time are the victims in combat, in soldier-to-soldier conflict. That should not be an ideal that we should set for women when we know that, no offense, once again, but men are better at combat. We should not say it's okay to have these on equal grounds, because that would be detrimental to what? The military. If all the women were in the same position as men, in this respect, okay, that might cause problems. And I'll just give you one example. You have an all-woman army versus an all-man army. Who is going to win? The women. The men.
Have you done this before?
That is going to, that's just going to happen. Same technology, same abilities. Men are going to win in that regard. And this is very common sense. Let's not try to be offended by it. Women's sports teams versus men's sports teams. Okay, the argument is over. Right? Okay. So, but in many respects, women do excel. And we know that, especially in Malaysia, when most women occupy university. They occupy some very high positions in that respect. So I agree and disagree to some extent. I don't really understand the last point that was made, but I just wanted to give into that. And I suppose I want to get to Q&A, so I've already taken up most of my time, but I also want to mention slavery for the next few seconds. And that is the reason that slavery was abolished, yes, was by global consensus or pressure. However, it was not the type of slavery that Islam allows. And I also want to mention that we still have slavery today. And I'm not just speaking about what you see behind the scenes in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. I'm talking about prison. That's also slavery, technically. Holding somebody against their will behind bars and then making them work for 25 cents a day so that they can pay off their freedom or be rehabilitated. Okay, this is also slavery, just called something else. There are many forms of slavery today that we allow, but we don't call slavery. So I just wanted to finish with that. Thank you very much for your time. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.